Hello, Steve Sipress here, August 21st, 2019. Now, amazingly, yesterday, for some reason I couldn't keep track of the days straight, and I recorded a video saying it was World Wide Web Wednesday, and I shared a tip. How to make more money via internet, online, digital, whatever you want to call it, marketing. And then this morning I was like, wait a minute. Today's Wednesday. Yesterday was Topical Tuesday. I was supposed to share something topical. Something that was happening, that was on people's minds. So I started to think, I guess I'll do that tonight. Let me figure out something to talk about. And then the news came like a ton of bricks. My phone started ringing off the hook. On the good side, it was good to talk to so many old friends today. Social media blew up, emails. Basically, anyway, getting hold of me today was nonstop. And really tough to concentrate then and get any work done. And then I decided that today was not a day to get work done. Today was a day to honor personal friend, mentor, coach, guide, genius, Dan Kennedy, who we got the news, and some people on social media jumping the gun and putting on conflicting news that Dan's already passed away. But I got the news from his oldest, dearest friend this morning that he is terminally ill. And Dan posted a note online himself that after about 10 days of complications, infections, and various different things, hospital type of stuff. I think we've all been there, and if not, unfortunately, we're all going to be there and know somebody or be someone who has to go through all that. And then it was that time, just time for Dan to say, that's it, and moved him to hospice, which, if you're not familiar with what hospice is, that's end of life. That means it's over, and you're just waiting out your last remaining moments on this earth. And yet there's still time, so I'll do it tomorrow. I'll sit down and write out something and get it to Carla, Dan's wife, who I'm told will be reading the tributes to Dan at his bedside in his final minutes, hours, days, moments on earth. So what did Dan Kennedy mean to me? Well, taught me a lot, too much for this video to share. As I stand, by the way, in front of a shelf, one shelf of books. All of these are various books by Dan Kennedy. I had the pleasure to co-author 2 books with Dan Kennedy. Here's one here. And there's another one down here. I got another shelf down here of more Dan Kennedy books. All these, the No BS, this, My Unfinished Business, his autobiography. Here's another book I wrote with Dan. And then we got more stuff. We got years and years and years of binders of Dan's No BS marketing letters. I got plenty more where that came from. I put a video on about 10 years ago where I piled up all the books and courses and newsletters and materials I'd gotten from Dan back in the before today, where pretty much everyone just puts their stuff online and gives you a password. Very few people print and mail out a bunch of stuff, materials, CDs, whatever, and send it to you. But back then, I remember covering I'll try and find that video and post a link, at least on my Facebook page. But I remember covering about a 6-foot-long table, about 3 or 4 feet high, with all the stuff I had from Dan. And when you add in the personal time I spent with him, and the coaching and the mentoring, multiple 6 figures invested. But it was a lot more than just marketing and advertising and sales stuff and business stuff. Dan taught me a lot, as he taught so many, how to live life on our own terms, how to be a renegade and go against the rules, how if whatever the majority believes is almost always completely dead wrong, and so many other life lessons that I and others live from Dan. And I believe that we are Dan's legacy. He'll continue to live through us, those of us that have been touched so deeply by his influence, his teachings, his mentoring. And some of us that spent some time with him personally got to see behind the scenes where, it's another lesson, so many lessons from Dan. But he really was purposeful and really stuck to his guns about this public persona, this public character he created of the professor of harsh reality and the curmudgeonly, gruff, grumpy old man. I remember when people would say the grumpy old man, he'd say, hey, knock off the old. And that's more poignant now that I think about it than ever, because Dan, not even 65 years old, barely older than me, and should have had a long, much more time on this earth. So young for Dan to be leaving us. We all got to go sometime. So some other lessons learned from Dan are get a mentor, for crying out loud. Get a guide. Get a coach. Get a mentor. Follow somebody. And even if you don't personally gel with the person, Dan made, as I said, he was made very sure to make it seem as if he wasn't personally bonding with anybody until you really got to know him and you really spent a bunch of time with him. So even if you think, I won't get along with that person, or he doesn't seem nice, or he's gruff, or he's, whatever. I mean, I hear that stuff all the time, because I'm known as Straight Talk Steve. And I myself am a no BS guy. Of course, not as much as the original Dan Kennedy, the no BS guy. But I like to be straight to the point. Maybe I'm sure I got a lot of that from Dan. And I just believe, I used to just ask people, and once in a while I still do. I'll ask a client, hey, see some issues here. Now, would you like me to candy coat it? Or would you like me to just tell you straight out? And I've never, ever, in decades of asking that question to business owners, had a single one look at me and go, oh, gee, Steve, I'm just such a weak, sniveling person. Please candy coat it and BS me about it. No, they all say, get right to the point, please. That's why I'm here. Tell me. Well, Dan didn't even have to ask that permission. That's who Dan was. And so get a mentor. The job of the mentor is not to be liked. Job of the mentor is to help you, guide you through whatever they're doing. In Dan's case, in my case, is to help you build a business. And then the business will build your life. Number 2, invest in yourself. Multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars I invested in stuff from Dan and Dan's students and others, and you see all kinds of other materials here, and I have boxes and boxes and boxes of more Dan stuff. I put on one of my Dan Kennedy t-shirts here. This is a cartoon made up by a friend of mine, Vince Palco, for Dan's No BS Wealth Attraction book. I don't know what page this cartoon is on, but then he printed up and put them on t-shirts, so at least we got a t-shirt for our $5,000 or $10,000 or whatever it was to attend Dan's Wealth Days event about 10 years ago. I went to a whole bunch of multiple $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 Dan Kennedy seminars and Glazer Kennedy seminars, and I became a Dan Kennedy certified no BS advisor, and I ran that for 6 years in Chicago and actually built the largest of all, well over 100 chapters that went through that program. I built the largest one of all of them. So you could say I was a king of the Dan Kennedy fan club back in those days, and I had the pleasure to share the stage with him and hang out in Walt Disney World with him at Winners Weekend and mastermind with him and meet so many great people through the Dan Kennedy world that I know that I'll be friends with forever and colleagues. And so, here's to you, Dan. Thank you for all you did. Thank you for who you were, who you are, and what you've meant to so many people, and the rippling effect through people like me and others like me that have taken upon ourselves to be teachers and guides and mentors ourselves, so that I've helped thousands of small business owners. So and a lot of the stuff that I teach, the concepts come right from Dan Kennedy and others, but a lot comes right from Dan. So I believe, Dan, you're going to continue to have a rippling effect. Your legacy will continue to live on through those of us that got to spend time with you, and even those who never met you but read one or more of your books, or subscribed to your newsletter, or saw you speak at an event, or even those through the ripples that got your guidance through another person, which from now on, sadly, is the only way people will now get Dan's guidance. So here's to you, Dan. Thank you. And hopefully I'll see you again someday, as Zig Ziglar would say, at the top. So we did it backwards. I got Topical Tuesday. That's certainly a topic you wouldn't say it's, in the New York Times or on, whatever news sites. It's not too many people to news, but in the world of small business, especially where the money comes from, small business marketing, advertising, and sales, Dan Kennedy was a giant, still is a giant among giants, and always will be. It's certainly the topic in my life and so many others today. So just fitting that I didn't do a Topical Tuesday video today. I'm doing a topical video, and tomorrow happens to be Throwback Thursday. So guess what I'm going to be talking about and sharing some memories of the one and only Dan Kennedy. I'll do that tomorrow. I thank you for being here today. Everyone watching on the replay, and I will catch you tomorrow on Throwback Thursday on another, can't be enough, tips of the hat, odes to one of the greatest, Dan S. Kennedy. Thank you, Dan.